Well, here's your chance for you and some of your family to take up a new hobby. Today I'd like to welcome Steve Denton. He's one of the local amateur radio operators here in Nelson. There are many people involved with this hobby, including myself, and there is a local club here that is now having an open night. Welcome along, Steve.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Now, many folks think that, maybe 30, 40 years ago that amateur radio operators were a bunch of old fossils, that they were pounding away on Morse keys, a bunch of grumpy old buggers, and, you had to sit all sorts of exams and Morse code and all that kind of stuff. That's all long gone, isn't it?
Well, it was the case when I got my licence. That would have been 30-odd years ago.
Yep.
And, you did have to sit quite a considerably complicated exam.
Yep.
And you weren't really going to go far in the hobby unless you did get your Morse code. And I joined as a teenager, and it really was an old boys network. It was a bunch of crusty old men. You're right.
Yeah. Okay, but of course nowadays folks are talking all around the world. We've got one of the local schools here is going to be talking to the folks on the space station as they go over.
Yeah.
And you've got computers, and you're talking with people all around the world, and you can see them and interconnect your computer to all sorts of stuff. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, amateur radio has changed a heap. It really has in the last 30 years. I think I've probably tossed the hobby away half a dozen times in the last 30 years, and there's always something that drags me back. And computers, the fact that they've completely abolished the Morse code has just changed the hobby completely. And now there are people, well, there's a lot of teenagers getting into it, people in their early 20s, and a lot of women are getting involved as well now. In fact, there's a whole group within the local amateur radio fraternity that are women, and they call themselves the NAGs, the Nelson Amateur Girls, and they're very active.
Now, getting a licence is pretty easy, particularly if the people come along to the club and the club will help them get the licence.
That's right. The exam used to be quite complicated. You used to have to draw schematic diagrams and all sorts of things, and that did put a lot of people off. But the exam is it's from a pool of 600 questions, and it's all multi-choice. So you can actually get a copy of all the questions you're likely to be asked. If you swap most of them up, you've got a very good chance of passing the exam. And there's nothing. It's not a major hurdle, certainly isn't. And my wife became a ham sort of in the last couple of years, and she is the last person in the world I thought would ever be technical enough to do it.
But I understand you can download not just the questions but the answers as
yeah.
well, tick them through, and then just go over it a few times. You can actually get it by memory, piece of cake.
That's right, yeah, that's right. And the whole idea of that is that they didn't want the technical aspect to be a hurdle, and so you can get your ticket, and you often learn a lot of the technical parts of the hobby once you've got on the air.
Yeah.
So,
and you learn alternatives, that when the set something goes wrong with it, you don't just bring out the hammer.
That's right.
There are things you can do.
The final adjustment. Yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And when people do talk technical, you do have some idea about what they're talking about.
Right. Now, you folks are having an open night at the Amateur Radio Club, which operates from the Car Club building in Bolt Road. That's just opposite Fulton Hogan.
That's right.
So that's the 16th of March at 7:30.
7:30 kickoff.
Right. Okay. So that's open to anybody?
Yes, anyone that wants to come along and learn about it. There'll be people demonstrating every aspect of the hobby, from the old-fashioned sort of HF communications through to the digital modes, the satellite tracking systems that are used by hams now, right through to the amateur radio version of Skype that allows you to connect your radios to the internet.
And of course, a lot of people are using their mobile phones, their iPads and everything to connect to a lot of this amateur radio stuff and communicate everywhere, aren't they?
That's right. There's several iPhone applications for hams specifically.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
So something there for everyone?
There certainly is. Yep.
Tell us about some of the other activities that the club's been doing.
Well, I think the Nelson Club is just about every aspect of amateur radio. There are people like yourself that are into HF. There's a really cool aspect of amateur radio called APRS, which allows some really cool tricky stuff to do with Google Maps and plotting vehicle movements and things like that, and a whole aspect behind that. There's another aspect called Echolink that we're quite active with. Mainland Television provide a service for us that allows us to connect computers to your mobile radios. It's like Skype, but with a whole an amateur radio spin on it, basically.
Skype with steroids.
Exactly. Yeah. You may not be able to see the person at the other end, but You can talk to them anywhere, and you're not paying ongoing charges and things like you do.
The only thing with APRS is I've got one of those transponders in my vehicle, is my wife can just go on the internet anytime and see exactly where I am.
No secrets.
See exactly what speed I'm doing, the temperature inside the vehicle, what the battery voltage is, and anything else
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And I don't actually know what the real application to that is, but it's real cool. It looks really cool.
I think it sort of stems from the fact of like trucking companies and taxi companies and various other companies that need to know where some of their vehicles are.
That's right, and the amateur radio guys use the APRS system to track vehicles when we're providing communications for things like the cycle races and the car club events. When the Nelson Car Club run a rally, we put trackers in various key vehicles, and it's great. It's a great safety feature too.
So with a lot of these things that the ham radio folks are doing, like providing communications for like the car club and various other things, that all kind of doubles as practice for civil defence, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah. There's an aspect of amateur radio called AREC, the Amateur Radio Emergency Corps, and we provide communications and services to clubs like the mountain bikers and the car club, and that becomes an AREC exercise. So we put temporary repeaters in and all sorts of things. So,
well, Nelson's really blessed having a bunch of folks here that are very active and very skilled, because as we see overseas, when there is a major disaster, it is the amateur radio people. When everything else all falls over, it's the amateur radio folks that are able to keep communications going for the authorities.
It's interesting, and a lot of people don't realise how vulnerable the standard forms of communication are, the internet and your cell phones. Recently, that earthquake in Christchurch showed how long a cell phone tower will work for, how short its battery life really is when the power goes off.
Right. But even during normal times, the system is only as good as the ability of a digger driver not to dig up a cable.
That's right, as the weakest link, that's right.
We've seen instances where the whole cell phone, internet, everything's gone down because one digger driver has gone through a cable somewhere. So we are very vulnerable, aren't we?
That's right, and a lot of these forms of communication the amateurs are using are completely independent of any other system. The repeaters and that we use are all sort of solar powered, or they have huge battery backups and things. So, yeah.
Now the local club's also involved very much socially too, with barbecues. I mean, I've been to a few of them, and what a great bunch of friendly guys that have a whole bundle of fun with the technology at the same time.
That's right, and a lot of the events we organise other activities at the events, and it's actually quite hard to drag people away from the organised activities because everyone's just there for a good old natter.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things.
Yeah, I think some people though might have had been wondering a little bit and think there must be a bunch of nutters because they have these things called the fox hunt, don't they?
Oh.
And everyone's running around with their little direction finders trying to find the transmitter.
Yeah, and I guess there is probably a practical application to that, but it's kind of like hide and seek for grown-ups. Really, it is really nerdy, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, there's one planned this weekend.
Yeah. But I guess the thing with that, Steve, is that if someone is lost somewhere and they've got either a cell phone or they've got a little walkie-talkie or some communication, then the amateur radio folks have got the ability to be able to actually locate where that person is.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. And practice, a lot of that's sort of practice and sort of local knowledge and that sort of thing. So
right.
Yeah, practice makes perfect with it.
And of course, one of the other things too is TV. The amateur radio folks over in the Motueka branch are running a channel 39, which you sometimes see a little active on
That's right. TV. It's not an aspect of the hobby that I've really got into, but I was surprised. We had a demonstration at a club night recently, and I was surprised how active they are.
Right.
Yeah.
And are there any folks active with Morse code? The old
well, there
Morse
is.
code,
It's funny. The chap that got me into amateur radio, my Uncle Rog, he always said that Morse code would always be there, it would never be dropped, and not in his lifetime. And he was right. He passed away probably a couple of months before they did actually abolish Morse code, so he did get the last laugh.
Right.
But now that it's not compulsory, there's maybe it's in people's psyche, but now that it's not compulsory, there's a lot of people sort of looking towards it, and there's quite a few new club members that are asking, what about this Morse code? And there are a few that will teach. So we've got one or two of the old crusties, the old stalwarts, that are going to get the Morse keys out and show a few club members about it.
But also, if you don't want to learn the Morse and don't want to carry it away with all that, if you've got a computer with a sound card, you just download the software for free and it will read it all out for you.
That's right, and it'll even teach you. If you want to learn Morse, your computer can teach you.
Yeah, and you can actually send back with Morse and stuff as well, can't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, exciting times for amateur radio and all the new new high-tech stuff that has been embraced into the hobby, has merged in. So, for any of the young ones out there looking for a challenge, looking for something new to do with their computer, this is ideal, isn't it?
It certainly is, yep. 7:30 on the 16th.
Right,
March.
And that's at the Nelson Car Club rooms, and that's opposite Fulton Hogan. That's the airport end of Bolt Road, and you're all very, very welcome. And if you want more information, then go onto the website. You can go onto the NZART website, and you'll see under there the Nelson branch, and there's all the details there, the contact information, phone numbers, colour of mother's eyes, the whole 9 yards. Thanks a lot for discussing that with us today,
No problem,
Steve,
Gary.
and all the best, and lots of success with the hobby.
Thank you, Gary.